Hello and welcome to Rob from the Internet Talks About Beer, a show where we discuss different styles of beer, beer history, beer flavor profiles. We give shout outs to breweries we think make exceptional beer, and we talk about whatever else comes to mind during the course of the conversation. I'm Rob, and if you like what I'm doing, if you like this kind of edutainment kind of platform that I'm putting out here, a little bit of education, a little bit of entertainment, I'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe to the channel, maybe click the little bell to get notified when new episodes come out, or maybe just even share this channel with your friends. Without further ado, though, let's get started. Joining me today is Jesse. I'm going to butcher your last name because I did it last time. It's Bussard, right? And she is the head of the Craft Maltsters Guild. Jesse, if you would, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do when you're not talking to people like me about craft beer.
Hi, I'm Jesse Bussard, and you got it right. I'm the executive director of the Guild. I've been in this position about 2 years, going on 3, I guess. Time flies when you live through a pandemic. Yeah, I do a little bit of everything here at the Guild. I run the show. I work with our members. I do promotion of craft malt. I lobby for malt. I do it all really, and I talk a lot to people all throughout the industry, maintaining our connections and relationships, and do a lot of promotional type work, going to events and things too, and we plan events and those things as well. When I'm not talking to people about craft beer and craft malt, I'm usually fermenting something. Usually kombucha, as you can see behind me. There's some kombucha and kefir right there going in jars. So I do that, and then I also grow mushrooms. There's some going right there. I do a little bit of things like that, and I hang out with my dog Boudreaux.
Nice. Very nice. Everyone's got to have a good dog to hang out with. So,
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, today we are going to be talking about an often talked about subject on this show. We're going to be talking about stouts. Stouts are one of my favorite beer styles, if not my absolute favorite beer style. So, for those who don't know, the term stout hasn't always applied to a beer that was dark and malty. When it first started out, the term back in the 1600s, it was just used for any beer that was strong. So you could have technically had, a stout ale, if it had existed at the time, a stout IPA, but that wasn't around in the 1600s. But you could have had a stout brown ale, a stout porter, which is where stouts get their roots from. It's from the porter beers. A stout porter was technically just a porter that was higher in alcohol. So it's a bone of contention among the craft beer people whether or not stouts and porters are actually the same thing. I fall into the camp of they're the same damn beer. One's just stronger than the other. That's like saying that a black poodle and a white poodle are not both poodles. So at least in my mind, because they're the same beer. They use the same. They come from the same root. They have the same grain bill. Basically, one's just a little stronger than the other. Until you start really mucking around with things and adding all sorts of weird adjuncts and what have you. But I am going to be drinking a beer that I got from a friend of mine who has also been on this show a couple times. His name is Gary Gilman. He's a beer historian. He recently took a trip to France and brought me back an Imperial Stout from Page 24 Beer in France. So it's an Imperial Stout from their Discovery series. It's just called Imperial Stout. I believe it's Torbay. There we go. We'll put that up there. So it's I tried to get more information off their website. It's listed on their website, but when you click on the information for it, it says that the link can't be found. So I'm going to just tell you that it's a 9.5% alcohol. It's a low IBU beer because it is a stout. Typically, Imperial Stouts have a little higher IBUs than your standard stouts, just to try and balance out the extra sweetness that they have. But this one shows on its little hopometer on their webpage, it's only got 1 hop, so it can't be too bitter. It comes in at a super dark SRM. I'm going to guess it's somewhere around 50 or 60, maybe even a little higher.
Wow.
It is it is a black beer. I mean, you cannot see through it. I'm holding it up right in front of a ring light right now, and you can't even make out any translucence in it. It looks like oil.
Yes, it should be opaque, as they say.
And it is opaque. It has a fantastic chocolatey aroma to it. Not overly roasty like a lot of them have. So, that's nice. I'm letting it warm up just a little bit. I took it out a little bit later than I expected because I was having technical difficulties, as I was explaining to Jesse before we got started. I'm using my backup camera today.
I think that that's our luck, is we always just we have technical difficulties when it's our turn.
Yeah. Oh, Jesse's pouring her beer. So what are you drinking here today, Jesse?
Okay. So one, I'm excited to use this new beer glass. I don't even know if you can see. It's got like a deadhead kind of like logo on it. You might be able to see
it does. It kind of looks like something Jerry Garcia would drink out of.
Yeah, and it says "Make America Grateful Again."
Very nice.
This is a special glass that there's a beer bar in Bozeman, Montana, where I used to live before I moved back to Pennsylvania. That it's called Shine Beer Sanctuary, and they had these glasses made for an event that they did. And even though I don't live there anymore, I follow them still. And I was like, hey, you got to send me that glass. I love it. And because I'm a Grateful Dead fan, love Jerry Garcia and all that. So anyway, got the glass. And so I'm using it for the first time tonight to drink Hella Nibs. It's a dessert stout with chocolate and vanilla from Otherwise Brewing in San Francisco, California. And Otherwise Brewing is a gluten-free brewery. And their tagline is beer beyond barley, which I love.
Nice.
But it's brewed with millet, rice, and buckwheat and glacier hops. And I haven't drank it yet, so I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, go for it.
It smells very nice. It has a lot of coffee, dark chocolate. Oh wow, yeah, super rich. Very, very. It's an imperial stout for sure. It's 8%, but it's really dry actually, and not super sweet or cloying. Surprisingly, like when I read dessert stout, I think it's gonna be this really sweet beer, and this isn't sweet at all. This is like dark chocolate. It's good.
Nice. Yeah, this one is not sweet at all either. It's not what you would expect. It's more of a semi-sweet chocolate. There wasn't any coffee on the nose for me, but there is in the taste on the after. When you open your mouth and like you breathe in, I get a little bit of that roasty coffee flavor.
Same.
Yeah, this is quite nice. The body isn't as thick as I'm used to for an imperial stout, but then again, I tend to drink the double-digit ABVs where they tend to get really thick and viscous. But it's nice. It doesn't have a cloying aspect to it. This one is fairly clean on its finish with just a slight lingering after of coffee. So.
Nice. Yeah, this one I'm not picking up as much vanilla as they say is in there. It's very subtle. So I don't know. I think they could have put more in. I would have actually really liked to have seen some vanilla in the nose on this beer. I think that would have been nice.
So for those who don't know or who are interested, the proper glassware for an imperial stout is something in the tulip or snifter style, or what you have is technically acceptable as well.
This is it's called a teku glass. Yeah, I don't even know what it it's a stem teku glass is what it is.
It's not really even an actual teku glass, because they have they go in and then come back out, so that they create like a funnel around
Okay,
the mouth
well,
area. But it's in the same vein as a teku glass.
I've
Yeah.
never been a stickler for glassware, so I'll drink beer out of whatever you hand it to me. And I mean, really.
Oh, no, I'm not a stickler for glassware either. I just happen to have a tulip style glass and an imperial stout, so I was like, hey, what the hell? My belief is that a good beer is a good beer, no matter what glass it comes out of. You might get a little bit better of a profile on it if it's in the proper glassware, but like I said, give it to me in a tulip, give it to me in a nonic, give me a shaker pint or a red solo cup. I'm still going to drink it. I'm not picky.
I was thinking back about the stouts today in the past. I was thinking, just about like stouts I've had in the past, stouts I've homebrewed, things like that, and I was like, there's been a lot of really great standout stout beers like in my past. I really have enjoyed that stout. I never considered myself like a big huge fan of stouts. I like them. But now that I look back on it, I'm like, yeah, actually, I drank a lot of stout, more than I realized. So,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, like it's the brewing them was great. They were I made this one time. I called it the Hot Otis Stout, and it was so it was an imperial stout with habanero peppers and cocoa nibs in it, which you put both of those things in secondary. And it was just like the basic recipe was like a chocolate oatmeal stout. Basically, it had some chocolate malt in it, and that beer was great because it had like some heat and some chocolatiness, and it was just hit the spot for me.
I've never been a big fan of pepper beers. Now, I've yet to find one that I've been like, oh my God, this is amazing. I mean, there've been a few that have been like, yeah, okay, this works, but it's still just not my thing. I'm a tried and true. Give me that super sweet dessert style imperial stouts. Some of my favorite ones. I had one earlier this week. I just got back. I was in the States this past weekend visiting friends and family, and I picked up some. Dragon's Milk has one to their triple mash, so it's 17.3%. It's one hell of an imperial stout, and it is super sweet. And it's definitely not something you're going to sit and drink more than one of at a time.
Did I hear you right? 17.1%? Is that what you said?
17.3.
Oh my Lordy.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Wow.
It was funny. I was sitting around getting ready to go out to dinner with my dad and my daughter. It was just after lunchtime. I'm like, I'm going to crack a beer, and I grabbed it and I drank it. And I'm about a third of the way through it, and I look at the label. I'm like, wow, 17%. I guess I'm only having one before I go out to dinner tonight.
I bet you were feeling good by the time you left the house. I hope that somebody else was driving. Oh man.
No, I was driving, but I gave myself 2 hours from the time I finished it to when I was driving.
Goodness.
So yeah, no, I drank it, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm not having any more beer before I go anywhere.
Yeah, I hate it when you find a beer that you really like and you have no idea what the ABV is, and then you drink too much of it. You're just like, oh shoot, it was so good, but now I don't know what's going on. I blacked out. What happened?
Where'd my day go? Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, for people who might be interested, typically speaking, imperial stout should have an SRM value of 30 to 40 or higher, but 30 is the minimum. The bitterness on it should be somewhere between 50 and 80 IBUs typically, but I've had some that are as high as 90, 95 in an imperial, and the alcohol an Imperial technically starts at 7% and goes however high they can make it go, apparently these days, because I had a 17.3. If for people who are interested in food pairings, it's great with like chocolate cake or like your aged cheeses. Stouts go really well with like a nicely aged cheese or red meats. So if you're a meat eater, like a nice beef brisket or beef Wellington or something like that. Yeah.
Steak or a nice beef brisket or barbecue. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much, because the caramelized flavors. Yep.
Yeah.
Anything grilled, anything smoked. Yeah, because that caramelization.
Yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah, and also don't forget, stout actually goes really well with ice cream.
It does. One of the local breweries here, they haven't done it in a couple of years because obvious reasons, but they used to do every summer. They used to do a beer floats. So they do their Imperial Stout, and they do a couple other of their beers, and they brought in this company that makes ice cream based that's non-dairy, so it's like coconut milk based and things like that. And the chocolate coconut milk ice cream with the Imperial Stout was a fantastic combination, and it was super rich and super sweet, and you get that slight coconut hit from the ice cream, and then you're pairing it with this super heavy chocolate flavored beer, and it was absolutely fantastic. It's like having what do they call those, black cow, like a root beer float, with chocolate ice cream, the black cow. You're using barley pop instead of soda pop.
Yeah. What was the weirdest stout you've ever had?
The weirdest stout I've ever had.
Yeah.
I had one that was it's actually a fairly popular style, but at the time when I had it, it was not. It was called an oyster stout. I don't know if you've ever had an oyster stout. And this one was actually brewed with oyster shells. They did that. So and it had like that kind of salty seaweed kind of flavor in with it, and that was kind of weird. Now they're kind of mainstream, but this was probably 10-15 years ago when I had it, and I was like, an oyster stout, what the hell is an oyster stout? All right, let's give this a try. And then I had another one that was a lobster stout. I've also had lobster seltzer and lobster ale. I can't recommend any of them because basically it just turns into like salty beer. And there's certain styles that lend themselves well to that, like gozes, but stout is not one of them.
It's crazy. We made so back when I used to work at this brewery in Bozeman, Montana, called Bunkhouse Brewery. Our brewer at the time made a sour stout, and it wasn't a legitimate stout, but it was black. So maybe it was, but it was soured. It was a kettle soured beer that had also had roasted grains, basically steeped in with the mash. And then it had hibiscus and some other interesting spices in it. And it was a play on, it also had apples in it, which was strangely weird, but it was supposed to be like a harvest beer. And it was called I think it was called Dia de los Muertos or something like that. Like we called it like the Day of the Dead stout, sour stout or something like that. It was something weird because our brewer Nick Velasquez at the time was the brewer, and he it was Hispanic, and so he wanted to name it something because it was close to Halloween, and it was this very interesting beer. Like it was sour, it had roastiness, it had some herbal kind of notes. It was just crazy. It was like you drank it and then it was black in your glass and you're like, what is this? So it was wild.
This is madness.
It really was. I don't know. New Belgium did did something similar once. Maybe they were the ones that started it, but yeah, you can make a sour stout, and it's oddly good.
Brewery. Yeah, the brewery makes a couple different sour stouts. They make one called Tart of Darkness, And then they make another one called Gypsy Tart that are both sour stouts, and they're both fantastic. When done right, a sour stout can be absolutely great because you can pair it with things that you wouldn't normally pair a stout with, because it's pulling the sour profile in. So you can pair it with, like, with foods that aren't as fatty, or they aren't in the red meat varieties, because you're going to have a different flavor profile with it, which is great. There are a lot of interesting stouts out there. I just had one, was it yesterday or day before? It was one of the Bourbon County ones from 2021. They have a cola stout, and it's weird because it has cola flavor in it, and it has a little bit of a coconut flavor to it. It's not things that you would expect to get from a Bourbon County, a Goose Island Bourbon County brand stout. And I was drinking, I was like, well, this is weird. You get cola and coconut in a bourbon and vanilla barrel aged stout, and it's not something you expect. But I'll be damned if I wouldn't drink it again, because it was good. It's not something I drink on the regular, but I bought a couple of them, so I'm going to put one, here in the cellar and let it sit. It says on the bottle it can age for up to 5 years. So I'm going to let it sit for about a year or so, and then revisit it and see if I still like it, and if maybe they'll make more of it. I don't know. I don't know. Stouts are one of those the go-tos, and it's funny. I keep telling people there's still a lot of people who have the mindset that stouts are a cold weather beer, and a lot of people, they're like, oh, it's getting to be fall and winter, let's pull out the stouts and porters, and I'm like, oh, it's getting to be spring and summer, let's still pull out those porters and stouts.
I think they have a place, year round. They're a great beer to drink around a campfire. When you go camping in the summertime, have a beer around the campfire in the evening. And pull out the stout, like the s'mores stout.
Yeah, they pair well with smoke.
Make yourself a root beer float and use stout instead of root beer, and you'll enjoy the benefits of enjoying some ice cream and beer at the same time. And that's, who doesn't want to eat ice cream when it's hot out? So
my wife and I have a ongoing mock argument that stouts, you can't have a session stout, and I keep telling her anything below 6% is a session stout, because you can drink it in the summer and it's crushable. So she's like, there's no such thing as a session stout. And then I tried telling,
and then
I'm like, well, then how about we just call it a summer stout? And she's like, no, that doesn't work either. But, well, if you look at it, like Guinness is called a stout, but it's only 4.6% alcohol. So technically I would call that a porter, but it's done in the style of the Irish dry stout as opposed to a standard English porter.
One of my favorite versions of stout, Irish dry porter.
Yeah.
Love that version. Love an oatmeal stout. Russian Imperial stout. Great beer style. But I would say Imperials and dry stouts. Like I like anything very dry. I'm not really a big fan of the sweet beers, like milk stout, not for me. I'm also lactose intolerant, so it just doesn't work for me.
Not a good idea for you. Yeah. My wife has that same problem. So she has to, she'll bring, if we go to a brewery, she'll bring Lactaid and things with her, just in case there happens to be a lactose beer, so that she can try it at least. Cause she likes to try them. They're not necessarily her thing, but she likes to try all the different beers. So, she always comes prepared. Speaking of Irish style stouts, Wildcard Brewing in Trenton, Ontario. Trenton, Ontario. I think Trenton, Ontario. Sorry. My brain's not braining right properly right now. So they made a bourbon barrel aged Irish dry stout, and it was absolutely fantastic. It's called Absolute Monarchy Irish Nobility. And I happen to have 12 of them in my cooler because it's so damn good.
Okay, then.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to buy them. I went to the brewery, and I'm like, yeah, I need 12 of these. And the girl behind the counter is like, they're $11 a piece, right? I'm like, absolutely, I know they're $11 a piece. I've already had 12 of them.
Oh my god. Well, I'm sure
But
Wildcard Brewing
I drink.
appreciates your patronage.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm friends with the owner, so with the owners, Nate and Zach Card are the owners. They're friends of mine. So I try, and anytime I pass through that area, because they're about 3 hours north of where I live, anytime we pass through that area, I try and make a point to stop and buy beer from them just to help support the business, because you got to support your friends.
Yeah. Yeah, speaking of Ontario, did you know that there's a new craft maltster in Ontario?
There is.
Yeah, since we last talked, another craft maltster has started malting and producing malt for sale to brewers in Ontario. Their name is
whereabouts and who?
Pakenham. Hopefully I've got it right. Pakenham, Ontario.
I'm not. I don't know. I'm not familiar with all the towns in Ontario, even though I've lived here a few years now. I'm still.
So their name is Mississippi Mills Malting Company. Yeah, and they, I think it's Pakenham. Yeah, Pakenham, Ontario, and that is close to Ottawa. Apparently, I just they're up.
Yeah, so that's
I just googled it really quick, and they're like on the west side of Ottawa.
Oh, so they're about 5 hours from here.
Well, anyway, that's some new like Ontario related craft malting news that has kind of happened in the last year or last kind of, I guess it's been what? It's been 6 months, 8 months since we had our last.
It's been at least six or so months since we talked last.
So that's happened in the last 6 months. So that's kind of cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Now I know there's one we had talked about this before. There's one that's not too far from me, like in
Harvest Hop and Malt.
I believe
is that one. They're really close to Toronto.
Yeah, wasn't it like in Puslinch or in Guelph or something?
Puslinch area, yeah.
Yeah. So that's only like 30 minutes from where I live. My sister-in-law actually lives in the Puslinch area. So
terrible name for a town.
But yeah, there's a lot of weird names for towns around here. I mean, my sister-in-law technically lives in a town called Troy, and I think there are 601 people that live there, and she was the one because she's the newest person to move there.
Well, I mean, I can't talk.
I think it's maybe. Yeah.
I live in Todd. That's what it's called. It's very uninspiring. But yeah.
Well, I mean, could be worse. Could be named like Doug or something like that.
Sure, or Chad. I don't know.
Chad, some.
Anyway.
But yeah, so for people who might be interested, the body on a typical imperial stout should be kind of mouth coating. Like I said, this one really isn't. It's got a thinner body than I'm used to. It should have, typically an imperial stout should have low carbonation. You don't, if you pour it out and it has a big thick head and it's sitting there bubbling away, that's not typically a good sign when you come to an imperial style stout. They should have a lower carbonation, and it should have a fairly long finish on it. Again, this one has a fairly short and clean finish, but I still like this one. It's nice. It is a little bit on the drier side on the finish, which is nice for a change, as opposed to my typical lingers around for 5-10 minutes going, hey, I'm still here. You want more?
Rob, do you do much judging, like beer judging?
I have never done any beer judging. I'm barely certified. It looks like my camera has decided to go offline for some reason.
Yeah, you're frozen.
Let's see if I can figure out.
I just took a screenshot for you.
Well, I can see that I'm frozen.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I guess like I told you earlier, I was having technical difficulties with my equipment today. Both my main camera and my desktop that I normally use for the show decided to be difficult, and apparently my backup camera is now being difficult. But I'm going to say it's probably not the camera, it's probably still the computer being difficult. It's funny because my camera shows that it's still got the light on and that it's recording, but for whatever reason, it is not. So this just goes par for the course. I think last time we had technical difficulties because you lost your headphones.
Yep.
And now this time it's me. So
Yep.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording for just a moment and see if I can't get.
Okay.
All right, we are switching to yet a third camera. Yeah, I'm just not having a good technology day today. So now I'm using the really crappy camera that's built into this laptop that I happen to be using today, and it's at the bottom of the screen, which is weird because normally your webcam is at the top of the screen. So this one's at the bottom. So I had to try and I'm trying to adjust it. So there, at least now you can actually see me. I can't see the screen on the laptop very well anymore, but this will work for the moment. I mean, we're about 30 minutes in, so we're not doing too terrible. I guess we made it all right before things decided to go completely south.
You're the man of many cameras.
Well, I technically have one more if this one decides to die, but I'd have to go upstairs to grab that.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I've got several computers throughout the house, and I work from home, so I have to have a camera for my normal job, and the one that I've got that I was using, the one that decided to stop working just a moment ago, was one that I use on my normal desktop for like when I'm hanging out with my friends playing Dungeons and Dragons and stuff because they all still live in the States. I live here.
Gotcha.
And then like I said.
Yeah.
This one's built into the laptop, and then, and then, like I said, my normal camera decided to be a pain in the butt, and just decided it was firmware was corrupted for whatever reason when I turned it on today. So I'm just having one of those days. So.
All right, we'll be back. Are we recording?
Oh yeah. We're recording again. As soon as I started talking again, we were recording. We just roll with the punches.
Got it. Roll with the punches. All right.
So if you want to think about it for a moment, what's your favorite stout of all time?
Gosh, I think it's a tie between two. Okay. Back a few years ago when I was still homebrewing beer, my friend Matt and I brewed a peanut butter stout together, and that was a fantastically delicious beer. Yeah, that was great. And then there was this brewery in Bozeman that called Bozeman Brewing Company, of all things, that brewed an imperial stout called Taurus, and it was just regular old imperial stout, dry, high alcohol, like 10.5%, 11%, and they had a regular version that they canned, and they also barrel aged some of it, and would usually like have a special release of like a small batch of the barrel aged stuff, and it was just always phenomenally good stout.
Nice,
really good beer.
Nice.
Just solid plain good stout. Nothing, no extra stuff.
Sometimes that's all you
need.
That
peanut butter stout was like so good. It was like so peanut buttery and like delicious.
Sometimes you just got to have that Reese's Pieces effect or that Reese's peanut butter cup effect where you got your chocolate and your peanut butter.
Yeah, we used dried peanut butter. Yep. I don't know if you've ever bought the dried peanut butter.
I used to buy PB2.
The PB brand. Yeah, that's it. That's what we used.
Yep.
So we used PB2 and put that in, and that was perfect. Worked awesome. Put it right in the beer, and it was perfect.
Nice.
And it just really gave it a great peanut butter flavor, and didn't give any of it like added extra oils or anything like that because it was the freeze dried kind of powdered kind. And it was perfection.
Nice.
So yeah, that's my favorite stouts. How about you?
For me, it's the 2015 Bourbon County barrel aged stout, just the plain. Not any of the variant flavors or anything. Just that 2015 Bourbon County Stout. It was absolutely phenomenal. It was a great year for the beer. It had a really fantastic flavor profile, and it's just one of those that I still compare. I still compare the ones I get these days to that beer. I'm like, okay, is this as good as the 2015? Maybe, but probably not.
Mm.
It is my favorite. It is my favorite barrel aged beer. Has been since it came out. Um, and it's the bar by which I judge all other barrel aged imperial stouts. So and don't get me wrong, I've had some that are better, but they're not consistently good. They're not as consistent like in their quality. Bourbon County stouts pretty much every year are fantastic. But I've had one on occasion. I've been like, okay, yeah, this one's a little better. But then I've had it a second time and been like, okay, well now this version's not as good as the last version. So
Yeah. Would you say that you're in particular, like you prefer barrel aged stouts over over like a just standard stout, non barrel
yeah,
aged one?
given the choice, I'll always go for a barrel aged version.
Yeah.
I just love the added flavor depth and the layers that it gets. And then
Hmm.
I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for the big beers. I like a beer that punches me in the face when I drink it. Because it's like, oh, here I am at
Yeah.
12%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way about a really good Imperial IPA. So, yeah, understand.
Awesome. All right, hey Jesse, if people want to find you out on the interwebs, where can they find information about the Craft Maltsters Guild, or if they want to follow you on the socials, where can they find you on the socials?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about Craft Malt and our organization and all the resources and educational things that we do, you can follow us at Craft Malting. And that's basically that handle on all three networks: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We also have a website, www.craftmalting.com. Super easy to find. Got lots of valuable things on there to look at. How to find a craft maltster near you, homebrewers that or homebrew supply shops that sell craft malt. Just resources for all kinds of stuff like that. Plus, we have events you might be interested in. And then, yeah, me personally, I'm Cowgirl Jesse on Twitter. And on Instagram, I'm just at Jesse Bussard, Jesse.
There you go.
So
Anybody looking to learn more about craft malting or all the stuff surrounding craft malting and places where you can
yes,
buy craft malt, go to the Craft Maltsters Guild, man. They have a wealth of information, and as you heard, Jesse is they're always adding more malters to the guild. So I now have another one here in Ontario where I can possibly get supplies from when I'm brewing, which is great.
yeah.
I'm always looking to support the smaller guys. The big guys get plenty of money. It's the smaller guys that you really want to try and support because they need all the help they can get to stay in business and compete.
Yeah, and if you don't know what the Craft Monsters Guild is, you should go back and listen to the last episode I did with Rob and kind of get up to
Yep,
speed.
yeah, we talked a whole lot about the Craft Maltsters Guild that episode. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the part of the show where I say, "Hey, this is the end of the show." So, again, if you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to follow me on the socials, I'm on Twitter. I'm Rob from Internet. I have a show on YouTube that's Rob from the Internet talks about beer. You can find it by looking there. I'm on Instagram, but not really. I post like once every 6 months or so over there because I find it really hard to do more than one social platform at a time because I'm doing so much other stuff. But until other than that, until next time, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks for having me,
Oh,
Rob.
you're always welcome, Jesse.
Appreciate it.